Lobster Magnet. Lobster's a 10 I told you grab it.
Wubba lubba dub dub! Here we are! This is taken forever. We originally wanted to do a review of the premiere episode, but now we are here finally to discuss Rick and Morty Season 3, the highly anticipated season. We are doing not one, but two episode reviews in one video. We're going to try and cover them both. So guys, what did you... First of all, let's talk about the Rick Shank redemption. What do you guys think of the premiere?
Pain. Please help me.
Scott, you didn't say wubba lubba dub dub with us.
Yeah, I know that.
Because we now we know what it means.
It means I am in great pain.
So, what did you think of the April Fool's big super special surprise that Dan Harmon and Justin Roiland foisted upon the world?
That was a brilliant episode.
I have to say, I don't know. I'm still convinced this is there is going to be some sort of like deep cut revelation that this is all just some sort of like crazy ass bullshit, because that is a lot of walk back on Rick's character.
What for? Oh, you mean at the end of the episode where he says that nothing really matters, it's all about the Szechuan sauce?
Yeah, I mean, also, for fuck's sake, it cannot possibly be that hard to find fucking Szechuan dipping sauce. You found other versions of yourself that exploded. You can find fucking McDonald's dipping sauce. Jesus Christ. Or you can find a world where, I don't fucking know, the fucking Szechuan dipping sauce is like an over-the-counter like thing you can buy and just like take it home and eat it whatever the fuck you want. Okay? There's an entire world with hamsters that live in people's asses, okay? So fuck you.
I cannot believe you are annoyed by the Szechuan dipping sauce, but that sort of does tie into like a sort of one of the kind of DNA threads about the series as a whole. In terms of like some people criticize it for its sort of like nihilistic philosophy. I personally love it. Like I always thought Futurama was overrated, and one of the reasons why I cannot stand like the sort of Frederator branded cartoons like Steven Universe and Adventure Time is I hate that sort of like quirky wholesomeness and earnestness. It like rubs me the wrong way, and I hated that about like Futurama a lot. I mean, Futurama's a good series, but I do feel like it's overrated a bit. Well, because it has so many times where it's like, oh my god, haha, we're making this kind of offensive joke. Oh, we're so edgy. Oh, but not really. It's still kind of like safe-ish and tame-ish.
Right. You know what? I'm just gonna say I don't think Rick was ever going to be wholesome. I think that's pretty fucking out of the question. But I don't know. I did kind of like the slow character growth where he was finally being able to like maybe have some kind of relationship or emotional attachment to his fucking children and grandchildren, even though he just had the worst way of showing it. Just fucking terrible. Which is, again, why I'm just like, it's either going to be a walk back where this isn't the real Rick, or it's going to be revealed that he realized what was happening and just had like a full-blown goddamn panic attack about it, and so decided to just do what he always does and sever the relationship and retreat back into his shell. And the rest of the fucking season is going to be about people realizing this and like basically trying to like drag him out again.
Well, that also sort of speaks to the dual type walk that, like, that was best, emphasized back in that season 1 episode where, the interdimensional TV where he says, like, nothing matters, nobody's here on purpose, we're all gonna die, let's come back, down and watch some TV.
Exactly.
We're like...
That is the kind of emotional payoff you want from Rick and Morty.
And that is the line that it, like, generally does a good job of, like, tightrope walking, where, like, on one hand, it's, like, random movie references and, crazy comedy that, like, works on, like, 4 different layers. And then, Dan Harmon, because he's, like, so fucking skilled and, like, an A++ quality writer, even if he's not the most prolific person, is still able to, like, weave in, like, a character arc and growth and like actually get you genuinely invested. Like, in the season 2, brilliant season finale of season 2, which played a little bit more straight with like, in terms of like threatening to give Rick a character arc. And the general like sense you get is that like, Rick will never admit it, but he does have a fondness for his grandchildren because of the fact that he keeps on bringing them along with him.
Exactly. I mean, like, again, that first episode just felt so weird at the end for that exact reason.
I just love that. It was just such a great thing that, like, Rick goes completely psych. I mean, you're right, though. It does feel more like season 1 Rick, where
exactly.
Rick's a little bit more homicidal and abusive.
Versus... It's like tie back to that season, isn't it? The end of the first episode of season 3.
Because, yeah, it did feel very much like the pilot, where he's like, Rick and Morty forever. We're going to keep on doing all these things and forever. And it's like, I got rid of your father, Rick. I got rid of your father, and now it's just me. We're just going to go on adventures, and we're going to have 9 seasons more, and it's a Szechuan just for the arc. That's my character arc. Like, crazed, abusive. God, I love how much stuff Rick and Morty gets away with. That, like, I'm still amazed that, like, there hasn't been, like, a call-out thing on Rick and Morty where, like, someone said, like, this is, completely intolerable, how it just hasn't happened yet.
Yeah, I mean... So, I mean, I'm actually kind of curious, again, because that whole false start thing, There is literally an entity in the universe calling Jerry a loser. I mean, come on.
Well, I thought that was just pretty random.
If this was all like some kind of setup where Rick is trying to brainwash Jerry into leaving his wife, because that's something I could see season 2 Rick doing.
Well, that sort of begs the question: what do you guys think of the divorce?
I mean, that doesn't bother me. That sounds about right for this fucking series.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's 100% right. But, like, were you on, like, Jerry? Do you think he's, like, an obnoxious distraction? Is he right in the sense that, like, Rick is a horrible influence on the family that sort of, like, brings out their worst traits? Or like, the core appeal, I think, of the character is that, like, Jerry is the dumb everyman. We have more in common with Jerry than we ever will with Rick, as much as we like to think that we're the smartest guy in the room. We'll always have a really smart quip. Or not.
Yeah.
And then there's that like one scene where, like, Rick looks like he's going to commit suicide, and then you see Rick.
God. That is my favorite scene in the entire fucking show.
Oh, that's such a good scene.
That is such a good show.
Yeah. We're like, Rick is like, about to like kill himself, and he like has the laser ready.
What happened in that episode that he wanted to do that? I forget.
Dude,
Unity
that was Unity. That was basically like the Aaron McGathy stand-in.
Oh,
thing. Yeah,
his girlfriend was like a whole.
Did you not notice that? That is basically what happened in that episode.
Holy fuck,
wait,
balls.
What?
I did not see any of that. I did not. It makes so much sense.
What are you talking about?
Oh my. Okay. So this is like a deep cut Harmontown lore thing. Because, well, Scott, I brought you into the Harmontown fold. You're deeper than even I have, because I haven't listened to a lot of the backlog. But it's fascinating because, like, if you want to see the beating heart of Dan Harmon's genius, that's where it is. That's the sort of duality that makes Rick and Morty so great. That's what makes Community so great. That's why he's an A+ writer. And, oh, man, I wish I was Dan Harmon, minus the alcoholism. Well, I don't have the alcoholism, but I wish I was, like, a worse Dan Harmon in terms of Like not quite as clever and smart, but like, occasional moments.
I mean, I'll be honest, Dan Harmon is part of why I should never drink, is I'm pretty sure I would, like, turn out like that. Like, maybe not as talented, but Jesus Christ, I'm pretty sure that would happen. Also, he is the perfect example of why I should never drink. I don't know how far back you are in Harmontown, but there is specifically an episode where he, like, pulls his pants down and walks around, like, with his dick out and everything.
Yeah, I think you showed me images from it where he was just, like, completely plastered.
Yeah, and then there was another episode where he decided to try on adult diapers and see if they worked on stage. He basically he pissed himself on stage, and then it's like, this is amazing. This is a game changer. I don't have to go to the bathroom anymore. It's a little bit heavier, but I feel dry. I can do this little dance, and oh no, a little bit went down my leg. Okay, that was my own fault. It's like, okay, this is exactly the reason why. This is for any healthy group of people, the point where you look at it and go, all right, I think we need an intervention. This is not okay.
So Greg, let me give you a little bit of context, and I can't believe I never realized that. So basically, Dan Harmon had his girlfriend, fiance, Erin McGathy, who's kind of this manic pixie dream girl. To describe her archetype, she had red hair, she's a comedian, she was always doing all these kind of quirky Tumblr-esque things, and they basically had a terrible relationship that was chronicled throughout the course of the entire podcast.
Yeah.
and even in the Harmontown movie, which was about the podcast, they show how dysfunctional the relationship was. And eventually, after less than a year of marriage, or was it more than a year, they broke up. So, and in the whatchamacallit, the episode with Unity, the mass hive mind, there's this girl who's red hair, who's the sexy president lady, and apparently Scott, I never realized it, that whole episode is a stand-in discussion about Dan's toxic relationship with Erin McGathy.
Yeah, pretty much. Well, I mean that is basically what fucking happened there. Is just I can't see it any other way.
That makes so much.
His terrible destructive behavior, and her finally realizing we are terrible for each other. I need to go, because Jesus Christ, if you listen to some of the shit on the podcast, they are awful for each other.
Yeah,
the sitting around in bed and just binging on pizza all day because neither one of them is motivated to get the fuck out of bed, and then just having a big fight over who's going to pay the pizza man when he shows up with more fucking pizza. This is not healthy.
Well, now Dan is in a slightly higher functioning relationship where he's with another TV writer person. I forget her name, but he mentions her occasionally, and she does higher quality. But yeah, that makes so much sense. And with Patton Oswalt as the Borg beta male who takes in Unity instead. God, that was a good fucking episode. And yeah, that sounds like a pretty apt reading. Man. So all right, so let's wrap up the discussion of episode 1 before we move into episode 2. Guys, what would you rate the premiere of season 3?
A lot of that comes down to what happens in the rest of the season. Right now, I'm
forget about that one scene. What about the great scene where
okay, fine. The rest of it, I'm gonna rate it at least an 8. Okay.
What? That was a 10 out of 10 episode.
No, fuck you. The fucking car battery episode was a 10 out of 10 episode. That was amazing.
Wasn't. That was
yes, it was.
That was a good episode, but how is that better than there was so much in this episode. It was so fucking dense.
You know what? I have to say this though. I originally was, to go way back, I was gonna rate the Get Swifty episode a 7. I kind of hated it. It was terrible. But the problem is, it's now hit an 8 or 9 in my estimation. Not for anything in the episode, but for the fact that fucking song is a goddamn earworm. I can't get it out of my head. The longer I listen to it, the funnier I fucking think it is. And the more I fucking love that episode. Just at random points, for no apparent reason, I'll just find myself going, "Oh yeah, you gotta get swifty." So the fact that it can get me to do that bumps it up at least a notch or 2.
But I thought you Scott would have loved the whole where he destroys the galactic government by just clicking one number and turning their currency to 0. And then the president shoots himself, and then he's like, "I'll tell you who to yell at for money."
What about the episode? Okay, one of my favorite Rick and Morty episodes is the one where there's this evil version of Rick, and he has a whole series of Mortys impaled, to block out the censors from the government, the alien government or whatever. Do you remember that episode?
Yeah, that was from the first season. That's a good one where they have the giant Matrix pain case of Morty where he uses the pain just to hide away. That's why a lot of people are wondering if we're gonna get evil Morty and see him again in this season.
Okay, that would be cool. I would be happy about that.
Because, like, that is another interesting thing. Like, nothing really matters. There really isn't, like, a chronology. There's, like, a few character arcs over the season, but, like, I wouldn't call Rick and Morty, like, a serialized show. Like, but its core genius is, like, in terms of, like, how you rate it is, like, how smart is this episode? Like, how layered are the jokes? And, like, if it does, like, go that extra, hurdle and, like, have some sort of deeper emotional resonance. Like, the episodes, we discussed before where, Rick wants to commit suicide, or that other episode, the end of season 2 with, what's that? Is that like 9 Inch Nails song that they play over it? Like, the Empire of Dirt or whatever?
Hurt.
Is that a 9 Inch Nails song?
Yeah, it's, I'm 90% sure. I might be losing my goth cred here. Give me a second.
That
yeah, but it should be Hurt.
Yeah. God, that was so fucking good.
Okay, I'm not crazy. That was Hurt.
All right, good. Those are the moments, and like, that's why I thought that the whatchamacallit, seeing Rick, like, in the complete clusterfuck of, like, the Rick Council fighting against the galactic government, that's also what makes Rick and Morty so great.
That was a really great moment of that episode, when he just teleports the whole space station into the galactic federal prison.
Yeah.
With, like, all the crazy, wacky, bonkers shit that was happening. It's just, like, I loved all those animations. Like, one of the most memorable parts of that was, like, Hammer Morty, like, hammering away at, like, some random-ass aliens, and then Rick, like, grabs him and just, like, uses him as a shield for blaster fire.
And God, those are some of, like, the best moments where, like, it's just, like, rapid fire, like, jokes in like the visual storytelling of the series.
Yes.
So, all right, so let's get some final scores till we go on to the Mad Max land. For me, it's a 10. Greg, what do you think of the season premiere of Rick and Morty?
8.
Fuck you, Greg.
8, maybe 8.5.
Scott?
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm gonna go with, like, an 8.52. Like, I'm still curious to see where the fuck this goes. Like, again, my problem is I feel like a lot of my joy in Rick and Morty comes in watching the aftermath as things continue to, like, spiral.
Yeah, because there is, like, a bit of continuity, even if it's not, like, things do kind of reset. There is, like, a light continuity in the whole thing. But it still has, like, a devil may care. Anything can happen, so you don't really care if, like, Rick turns himself into a pickle.
Yeah, pretty much. Like, that is part of my deep joy in watching the series, is that light continuity as things just keep popping back up. And so episodes that before it's like, okay, this is a pretty good episode, suddenly become way more interesting and a lot more fun to watch when you know the stuff that's going to happen down the road.
Maybe the Szechuan sauce thing is, like, some kind of big conspiracy, and it's, like, actually heavily guarded by, like, some crazy time travelers that, like, stole all the Szechuan sauce from out under people's noses from every single dimension.
I just think the Szechuan sauce is just, like, a random joke of, like, someone, or I don't know if I think Justin Roiland's, like, maybe, like, in his mid-30s. But yes, someone who's old enough, who grew up in the 90s, because I remember the Szechuan sauce. I remember that fucking Mulan program. I also remember the triple, Hercules burger from McDonald's that they had, because every summer...
I don't fucking remember that shit.
Yeah, I don't remember that either.
In the late 90s, like, I was very astute from as you know, I love gimmicks. I love stupid gimmicks. So, like, whenever a fast food chain or, like, a casual dining franchise restaurant has a gimmick I really like, I internalized it. Because, I missed my calling of being, like, just the guy who comes up with stupid gimmicks. So, like, back in...
Like the fucking bubblegum slushie from... God, what the fuck is that? Not Checkers. God damn it. Sonic. God, that was disgusting. I can't believe you drank that.
I remember it being pretty tasty. Like my favorite thing is, like, taking other stupid foods and like eating them in other forms. Ooh, Oreos in cheesecake form. What about Oreos?
That actually sounds really good.
or Oreo cheesecake in a milkshake. So anyway, the point is, back in like 1998 when Hercules came out, McDonald's had a promo like you could be like Hercules and eat the 3-patty, cheeseburger, and they sold it for like $3 or something. If I was on Dan Harmon's level, I'd somehow turn that into like a funny end gag. But like that's why the Szechuan sauce was like became an internet sensation, because it was so specific and so lodged in the back realm of the cultural mindset, and there are enough Gen X, millennial, whatever the fuck you want to call it, who have that went bonkers, and it worked like gangbusters. But who knows? Maybe we'll see no more Szechuan sauce. Maybe we'll see all the Szechuan sauce.
I think
Justin Roiland got just
it'd be
Szechuan
worth
sauce
it.
from McDonald's.
It'd be worth it just for that moment where like we actually see the whole conspiracy of the Szechuan sauce, for Rick to say, "I told you, Morty. Why didn't you listen to me? This is like my whole purpose of living, Morty." Just like for that kind of comedic punch. I think that'd be totally worth it just for it to actually be real.
I don't know. Like, again, part of the reason I'm still kind of waiting to see how this turns out is they had such like a hard, interesting end to that series where it's like, all right, so you get to see like what Bird Person and Squanchy and this fucking wedding and just all of this like really emotionally heavy shit. And then just immediately all retcon because of Szechuan dipping sauce.
Well, remember, like Rick was like, saying like, giving into his sentimentality only for it to like, all completely unwind and like, that huge ridiculous rebellion. But we'll have to wait and see. But let's move on to the next episode. Rick Mancing the Stone. So. What we obviously there have been some great like episodes where like Rick and Morty just riffs on a film universe, like who's purging now, like God, I'm trying to think like what
every time I feel down I fucking watch that power armor sequence and suddenly I feel a little better about myself every fucking time. I never knew that this is exactly what I would do with power armor until I watched that fucking sequence. And now I'm just like sitting there going, yes, I would probably go on a murdering spree.
Just bust into Congress, you're responsible for Trump Republican senators. Feels good.
Just like start breaking into like every fucking mansion I can find.
Wait, what is this power armor thing? Is this from this episode? The second
No,
one?
it's from the second season. Didn't you ever see the Purge episode?
Oh, the Purge. Yes! Oh my god.
where the little cat girl, whatchamacallit, which actually there is a thematic tie to this episode in the sense that like that was the episode that like, expressed Morty's, repressed rage. And we sort of got to see a continuation of that when Morty gets his like, has his wonderful relationship with the mutant arm.
Yeah, that mutant arm and Morty were like inseparable. I love that mutant arm.
Well, the one thing though that I kind of complained that kind of bugged me is like I hated how like that mutant arm like came from like this Game of Thronesian universe where it was like everything was more medieval and like the tone like and the art style completely changes.
That was so weird.
And like and that little tub guy, he looked like my guess is I feel like he was supposed to be like a reference to Prince Joffrey because he had like the foppish blonde hair, and that was the sort of idea of like the Rick and Morty like strangling Prince Joffrey, and it's like a minor quibble, but it's like one of those things that kind of annoyed me. It's like why the fuck are you like eschewing from the Mad Max Desert Road Wasteland radioactive aesthetic to go into like medieval Game of Thrones land, because I figure if like Rick and Morty was going to do a Game of Thrones episode that they would probably do something better, a little bit more well thought out, because I'm sure that they could riff do something really good with it.
Maybe because they wanted to throw in a little bit of extra genres in there, like because maybe the whole apocalyptic genre wasn't something that they wanted to solely focus on, I guess. Maybe I don't know.
Yeah, but it wasn't like developed. I don't know. It just annoyed me. It felt like out of place. Like I guess you could argue that like, oh, maybe like in post-apocalyptic worlds, people revert back into medieval society, and this thing was like going alongside, whatever was happening at.
That reminds me of that terrible fucking movie. Do you even remember the title? We saw it when we were back in college, where there'd been like this plague or some bullshit, and there was this giant wall, and then like fucking out of nowhere, apparently like the population of like this medieval castle or like medieval recreationist like historical society like had their own fucking thing going. God, I don't remember the name of the fucking movie. It was bad though.
I don't remember. It sounds like one of those dollar movies we got from like Walmart.
No. It fucking wasn't like the weird fucking Korean robot movie. I still have that.
Or like the Omega Man. With like Adam West, who was like in it for like 5 minutes.
Let me see.
I'm glad I didn't watch these movies. You guys have like this weird obsession with bad movies. It's just like
I don't know, man. I like trash anything, man. The trash compactor is the best. Well, there's different degrees.
Doomsday. It was called Doomsday. I just looked it up.
Oh, yeah, I know what you're talking about. That's the Neil Marshall movie. Some people actually like that, but most people thought it was like kind of yeah. Doomsday, basically, there's a virus, and then like they have to go find the cure, and this like elite SEALs team goes in, but everyone's like back into like Mad Max post-apocalyptic, tribal society.
Yeah.
It's kind of not the best movie. It's kind of like a middle of the road genre film, but like that guy Neil Marshall's like famous for doing The Descent. He directed a lot of the episodes of Game of Thrones that people really love, like Battle of Blackwater.
The Descent was really good. I remember that movie.
He also did this movie that people like called
Watching
Dog
it and
Soldiers.
singing was good.
But okay, we digress. Let's get into Mad Max, super mad. But that's interesting, Scott. Yeah, I guess you could say that like that's what fits the aesthetic. But so, what did you guys think of Summer and Morty going off to take out their frustrations in the divorce in the post-apocalyptic wasteland?
Okay, that was good. That's kind of getting back to the Rick and Morty I know and love, where it's just this terrible family dynamic. And they're expressing it in the worst way possible. Summer is just kind of terribly broken.
I'm kind of amazed how much like more like leg work they're getting out of Summer, because originally she was just like she was basically the Meg.
So happy with this. Like I'm so fucking happy with the way she's turning out.
Yeah, it's kind of amazing, like, because originally she was just felt like the Meg. She was just kind of there to be the older sister, but like they've gotten some like great material, like throwing her into the adventures as well. And I guess you could say there's like this interesting family dynamic where like all of them, except for I guess Jerry, all kind of revolve around Rick's approval. They all kind of want Rick's approval because they know how smart he is and all the, crazy crap he gets himself into. But naturally, Rick loves Morty the best.
Yeah. Although, I don't know. Like, in this episode, I am half tempted to believe that whole, like, there's a scientific formula for how much you both piss me off, and I hate you both the same. Like I'm willing to believe that out of Rick, where it's like, I love both my grandkids, but Jesus Christ, they're such a fucking pain in the ass all the fucking time, just pissing me off.
Yeah, that does make sense because Morty's just kind of like a dumb kid, and Summer's like average teen girl, and sometimes like they go beyond those archetypes, but you can sort of see how like Rick on some level hates them, but because Rick is like generally so toxic, they're the only people who he can like continue to pressure to come along with him.
Yeah, I mean, who else is he going to go on his adventures with? Like, who else would go on his adventures with him? Besides, I guess, maybe Bird Person, if he was still around.
Yeah. He's a cyborg now.
I want to see more story arcs with
The
Bird
fuck is
Person.
his name? Phoenix Person?
Yeah,
Oh,
I am now Phoenix
metal
Person.
Phoenix Person.
I love that. I want to see more story arcs with Phoenix Person now.
Why do you love Bird Person, or is it just like
Because
Bird Person?
I want to see some more of that Rick. There was this one video I saw where Rick showed. Someone explained like Rick shows like his basically the only sentimentality throughout all the seasons by going to Bird Person's wedding. They're like showing that he actually has a human heart. And the fact that Bird Person was like so horribly fucked by the world government afterwards, I feel like Rick would have some, he would want some revenge for what they did to Bird Person. And like,
well, he got revenge. He destroyed the entire galactic government.
He never said like officially that it was for revenge, though.
I don't think he cared about Bird Person enough to want to avenge him, but like he'd see him, Rick is like the ultimate anarchist, the ultimate anti-government libertarian. So his revenge was by like literally taking down the system.
Right.
That's always one of the funniest elements, that like Rick hates order and bureaucracy so much that like the series Rick, the C 127 whatever Rick, is the rickiest Rick of them all and despises the bureaucracy made of himself.
Yeah, that's actually pretty funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good point. But I still do want to see more of a dynamic between Rick and Phoenix Person now. Now that Phoenix Person is a thing, that'd be interesting to see them interact again.
And what do you guys think of the B storyline with good old, Rick making like life model decoys, and then the Morty life model decoy wanting to like live, actually live?
That was a really nice touch. I like that a lot.
Although, I'm not like a person who's like super in touch with like the lore of Rick and Morty. Well, in the sense that I enjoy seeing whatever Dan Harmon's concocted every episode. But one thing I'm desperately curious about is I really want to see who Rick's former wife or whatever that he produced Beth with.
Yeah, that is a good fucking question. Actually, give me a second here.
I don't think it's in canon. I don't think anyone's ever said that who's whatchamacallit, who Beth is, or that who Beth's mother is, and who Rick or Summer and Morty's grandmother is.
God, this is a terrible, terrible fucking idea. You ever wonder if it's Unity?
Wait, what are you talking about?
Maybe.
Unity.
God damn it, Greg!
Wait, no, sorry, I got distracted.
What were you getting distracted by?
I got a random text from Uber for some reason. I don't know why.
But yeah, I'm seriously kind of curious now, because that would kind of make a lot of sense. We've never heard him mention it, and wait, Beth has mentioned that her mom was around, so maybe it can't be Unity, because I feel like she would have figured out something was going on.
Basically, Scott suggested that maybe the mother of Beth was the Unity hive mind who Rick was with, in that episode, the infamous Unity episode that we talked about earlier.
Oh, Beth's mother was Unity?
We don't know. Maybe, who knows? Maybe she went on Earth. She went on Earth and assumed an identity. But maybe not. We'll have to wait and see. But that just seems like such a apple, creative apples to introduce Rick's former wife. I feel like it's something that Justin and Dan Harmon aren't particularly interested in pursuing. But I don't know. There's just so many good story possibilities there. You wouldn't want to see that, Greg?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how you make that super entertaining.
Maybe
she has the Szechuan sauce, and she's also an interdimensional
Jesus
traveler.
Christ.
Maybe she is the Szechuan sauce. Oh my god.
Sure.
We'll have to wait and see. I don't think it's one that he's particularly interested in. But it was definitely a more low-key episode versus, the premiere. It was just a more subtle episode, more character-driven episode as they all deal with the whatchamacallit. Although our Morty was pretty great. And oh man, all that awkward like divorce things is like a whatchamacallit, the guy with a divorced family. Oh man, does that all hit true? Nail on the head.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel pretty bad for Jerry and
Well, that's another
Beth.
kind of good question. I was kind of like curious to get about. What do you feel like? Do you feel like bad for Jerry, or do you feel like Jerry deserves it? Because I was looking on the internet. There seems to be two sides where some people are like, Jerry's such a pathetic loser. He deserves everything he gets. And then there's the other part that kind of sympathizes with Jerry. Because like I said, we're not Rick. We're Jerry.
Honestly, like the show basically wants you to basically treat him like shit, and that's kind of what the show does at all times.
Yeah,
But
it's true. Like
this is one of those fun things to do is swap the genders of the two parents and see what that looks like. And quite frankly, the divorce is probably the best thing that would ever happen to him. Because holy shit, is Beth just a terrible abusive piece of shit sometimes. Like, holy shit, she is just like emotionally abusive to him.
and well, she learns it from the best. You know, she's got her fucking
basically, like she's emotionally damaged, and she is just like beating him with it all the time. It's really sad. And while like, yeah, the show basically wants you to laugh at him, it's like if you actually stop and think about it, like half the shit in this fucking show, it's really just sad.
Yeah,
And like he's a spineless piece of shit, but Jesus Christ, it's probably a good idea for him to fucking get divorced. He should probably be as far away from her as possible. That is a terrible codependent relationship. Look at the fucking episode where they tried to fix their relationship. And
that episode kind of
like this is
all
for the best. This is really for the fucking best, and I hope it sticks.
I loved how like they basically mutated their relationship into like those weird like
monsters.
Monster
Yeah,
mutations.
that was also
and Jerry
a really,
was
really
like
smart
this
episode.
This like spineless little germ creature that latched onto, you know, the alien, the mother alien of Beth, to just like be like, and then nag at her a little bit, and you go like.
I'm sure that episode was inspired by like all Dan Harmon's like therapy sessions to try and like save his Aaron McGathy relationship. But yeah, that was like one of the best like Beth and Jerry episodes like in the entire series.
Yeah.
Oh God, they're codependent. Everyone just runs away. I don't know. There's two things I'd like to see from Jerry. Like one, like you know, I'm kind of curious to see if he like gets into another relationship, and then there's a part of me that's like kind of like rooting for him to like become an actor, like he was in that alternate universe where he became Tom Hanks.
Yeah.
I mean, on one hand, you're right. Like the DNA of the show is to shit upon him and make him a spineless loser, and like milk that for as much humor as possible. But like you know, there's a sort of sense of like you know that like we are more Jerry than Rick, as much as we like to think that we're as Rick and we're not.
Do you think Jerry could have a redemption in some fashion, like from being spineless to not so spineless?
The one way I could see that is like if like you know C-27 Jerry meets like Cronenberg Jerry, who's like you know in the Cronenbergian universe, who you know gains a spine through violence of fighting against an endless horde of mutants.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
Jesus Christ.
Because like
Also one of my favorite fucking lines in the entire fucking show.
What's the line?
Christ. I wish that was my penis. If it was, you could call me Ernest Hemingway.
What?
All right, so let's get on to the final score, guys. What would you rate this episode?
It's like a 7.5 for me.
Fuck you, Greg.
I'd say it's an 8.
What?
Yeah, I'm gonna give it an 8. Honestly, it might go up to an 8.5 depending on what happens later. Because again, for me, it's all relative as to what happens with the rest of this.
My score's only 0.5 lower. What's the deal?
That's like giving somebody a 75 instead of an 80, Greg. It should be a B minus, not a fucking C, solid C. Fuck you.
It's kind of amazing how, like, when you think about like the difference between like the 79 category versus the 80, which is like far more nice and acceptable, but 70 always has that like stink of like failure and mediocrity.
Yeah.
I thought the pacing of this episode wasn't like the best. I mean, it kind of like
it's just a deep dive character study into Morty and Summer and all that jazz.
it kind of dragged a little bit for me, I guess. I kind of wish things would got a little bit quicker. But it was a fun episode. I still enjoyed myself.
And did you like Joel McHale returning as Lord Hemorrhage?
Who?
Joel McHale, it's funny. He's kind of like asshole Chris Hardwick. He was in Community. He was like the main character, longtime buddy of Tan Harmon, and he did the voiceover for the Buckethead guy, Lord Hemorrhage.
Did he?
Yep.
Oh my god, that's pretty funny.
I did love like how like the way Rick gets Summer to return to civilization is by like bringing civilization to the fucking wasteland, to the point where like her relationship completely destroys and like decompresses the minute they becomes more banal. Oh my god, we're just telling her to like watch out for the recyclables.
Yeah, and that's kind of funny. Like the whole. Summer had to experience a divorce herself in order to go back to finally deal with her own problems of like, oh shit, my parents went through a divorce. Maybe I should go back and talk to them about that.
And the best part is like when whatchamacallit, Morty and and Rick are like, oh my god, we're so sorry. Oh, I can't believe it.
Like she's like, I don't fucking care. Let's just go back.
But it was a good episode. All right, so thank you guys for hanging out with us. To Wubba Lubba Lubba Dub Dub. We're gonna plug some Mr. Meeseeks. Bye, Mr. Meeseeks. Mr. Meeseeks, look at me. There's gonna be Mr. Meeseeks.
This episode
version.
wasn't Meeseeks specific.
I will personally suggest the Mr. Meeseeks box because I own that thing and Jesus Christ, I fucking love it.
What does it do?
You press the top. It's a game, so you can play it. But you can also press the top and get a number of pre-recorded Meeseeks lines. And like, I got this for like a Christmas present. I was at my parents' house. They're like, "What is it?" And I press the top, and the first thing I hear is, "I just want to die."
Alright, so buy the Mr. Meeseeks box from Amazon because like Rick and Morty merchandise is the best. God, I love how Rick and Morty like is so loose that like even when they shill out and sell out, it still manages to keep the integrity of the show. Like when they did the Hardee's Carl Jr. Ad.
Oh god, still one of the best ad subversions ever.
Oh, it's so good. And even the Alien Covenant ad was amazing. Greg, have you ever seen the Alien Covenant Rick and Morty thing?
I don't think I've seen it.
No, I've shown it to you, Scott. I explicitly showed it to you. Basically, Rick and Morty, they go on to like, the alien.
Oh yeah, that's right. Never mind.
Yeah. So
right. It wasn't as good as the Hardee's commercial, but I've seen it.
True. The Hardee's is just brilliant because it's just sort of like Gonzo. But like in the Alien one, basically they go on to like the H.R. Giger ship, the horseshoe ship, and then Rick gets like a face hugger attached to him. But then like it falls off of his face because like Rick has ingested so much like toxins and drugs that it literally can't breathe on him. And Rick's like, "Oh, better let all those alien people know because maybe then they get less aliens busting through them." Yeah, Rick, sounds like a good idea.
Yeah.
All right, so bye, Mr. Meeseeks. Thanks for watching the video. Like, comment, subscribe.
Thanks.
Have a good one.
Lobsters made of lights.